But first, the hot topic of the hour, a fiery hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday as Attorney General Pam Bondi accuses the Biden administration of weaponizing government for Operation Arctic Frost, a 2022 FBI probe into dozens of Republicans and their entities, all surrounding the results of the 2020 election. Here's the AG yesterday in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
The FBI disclosed that the Biden administration used Arctic frost to target Republican senators, including several senators on this very committee. This is an outrage, an unconstitutional breach, and ought to be immediately addressed by you and Director Patel.
Operation Arctic Frost was an unconstitutional, undemocratic abuse of power. During Arctic Frost, the FBI also placed 92 linked Republican individuals and Republican groups, such as Charlie Kirk's Turning Point, on their list. This is the kind of conduct that shattered the American people's faith in our government. We are ending this weaponization.
Top Democrat senators pushing back on Bondi, claiming that it was the Trump Justice Department that's being weaponized. Watch this.
To my Republican colleagues who claim the previous administration weaponized the Department of Justice, President Biden retained President Trump's FBI Director Christopher Wray, who President Trump then fired. President Biden never directed the Attorney General to prosecute his political opponents. President Biden never fired his own political appointees for refusing to prosecute his targets. What has taken place since January 20th, 2025 would make even President Nixon recoil. This is your legacy, Attorney General Bondi.
Just yesterday, however, new FBI documents revealed that former special counsel Jack Smith tracked the private communications of at least 8 Republican senators during his probe of January 6th. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley was one of those Republicans surveilled. Here's what he said yesterday. Watch.
Heard them say that Joe Biden never targeted his political enemies. That's interesting, because I could have sworn that yesterday we learned that the FBI tapped my phone. Gee, it sure looks like targeting political opponents to me, and yet I haven't heard a word from that side of the dais about any concern whatsoever.
Unbelievable. Yesterday we had Ron Johnson on, senator from Wisconsin, and Michael, he too was one of the senators surveilled, and they're all outraged. Lindsey Graham as well. We don't know how they came up with this group of senators to decide to track their personal communications, but they did.
Question really is who signed off on it? And this really points to the Jack Smith runaway investigation, that nobody really had any oversight. I mean, to go and take a look at the phones, the personal communications of United States senators is really an outrageous abuse of power. You know, the separation of powers. You're supposed to have the legislature overseeing the administration from that standpoint. And yet you have an independent prosecutor who sits there and says, I'm going to go after these people. And for what reason? That's the other thing. What was part of the investigation?
They wanted to see who they were talking to, how long the calls were. Ron Johnson joined me yesterday. He was one of the people surveilled. Here's the senator. Watch. What have you learned? What can you tell us?
This doesn't surprise me. It should shock, it should outrage every American. Quite honestly, by now, it should be obvious to every American that it's not the Republicans that are a threat to our democracy. It's President Obama, it's President Biden, it's the radical leftists that have served and support them.
What was Marsha Blackburn doing? What was Lindsey Graham doing? You know, how did they choose which senators to surveil?
It's a very odd group of people that they pulled their phone records on. There's no chain of approval on this thing. Apparently, they evaded the normal chain of approval to do something that they apparently avoided an awful lot of the very rigorous approval that would normally be required. We need to have a judge unseal those records. We need to understand exactly what happened, exactly who was involved, and make sure the American public understands what happened. Expose this so that the American people really do understand who and what party is the threat to democracy. Here's a hint. It's not Republicans.
And we've got all the redacted information right here that was declassified. Your reaction?
I think it's shocking. And my comment to Madam Attorney General, Pam Bondi, keep going. She is finally doing for all of us what we wanted to do but are not empowered as private citizens. She's shining a spotlight on the deep, dark crevices of Washington, and it's a good thing.
And let's not forget, the former FBI director, Jim Comey, is due in court this morning. He was supposed to be arraigned tomorrow. He's going this morning as the Justice Department defends its decision to prosecute him on 2 federal counts of lying to Congress and obstructing justice. Bondi also sparred with Democrats over that indictment and the Biden family's shady foreign business ties and accepting money from adversaries. Watch.
The American public is entitled to know, Madam Attorney General,
The entire cabinet was at that dinner,
took
too,
instructions from President Trump after he told you very directly to indict James Comey, which is weaponization of the Department of Justice. I want to agree with my colleague, Senator Hawley, that weaponization of our justice system must end. We should reform the grand jury process to ensure that the government is not abusing its power and authority, and it will require transparency and accountability reforms at DOJ.
Well, I find it so interesting that you didn't bring any of this up during President Biden's administration when he was doing everything to protect Hunter Biden, his son. And I think you just saw what Director Radcliffe just released. Information that the Biden administration told them not to investigate Hunter Biden's involvement with Ukraine.
And of course, we told you about this yesterday. CIA Director Radcliffe released documents which show that back in 2015, then Vice President Joe Biden blocked any dissemination of intelligence which showed Ukrainian officials were concerned with his family's business ties. There you go. We talked about this for years, how the Biden family was accepting tens of millions of dollars from adversaries like China and Ukraine, according to the Oversight Committee. Biden did not want that disseminated.
You know, this is the way our justice system and our democracy should work. We have a new administration comes in and now is able to uncover all these things. Because think about it this way. If the Democrats had maintained control of both houses of Congress, we would never know this. They would never reveal this.
Of course.
And that's the horrible thing about this, that you have people with partisan agendas who are not going to talk about what should be a nonpartisan Justice Department.
Yeah, and going after your political enemies. I mean, that's basically what has gone on here. All right, we've got a lot coming up. Stay with us. We'll be right back.